Hey, this is Kelsey coming to you from Los Angeles. It's Saturday morning and you are listening to Light Talk.
And this is Ellen coming to you from the beautiful tropical island of St. Bart's. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk. And we are the Lumen Sisters.
That's right, Ellen. Welcome everyone to episode 460.
So today, and I believe for the first time in 9 years of Light Talk history, we have an all-female show to celebrate women in lighting. My co-host for today is Kelsey Aria. Kelsey is a results-driven production professional with a background spanning stage management, lighting design, and technical production. She brings both artistic vision and operational discipline to every project, from immersive installations to concerts. Currently production director at the Sun Valley Music Festival, she combines technical fluency with a deep respect for the creative process. You may have heard her on our show a few weeks ago on episode 455, as she was the grand prize winner in the Light Talk Live at LDI in December. We also have two special guests today. Kelsey, can you please introduce Aria and Aria?
Happy to. Aria Hailey is a lighting programmer who has brought her expertise to artists like Camila Cabello and Alanis Morissette, as well as sports productions with the Cleveland Cavaliers. With a deep love for Grand MA and Zactrack systems, she is dedicated to helping others explore these tools with the same curiosity and passion she has developed, encouraging growth, efficiency, and the courage to step beyond their comfort zones. Erica D. Hayes discovered her gift for lighting the same way she found her love for directing, through a love for music and a penchant for building genuine relationships. She has become a go-to lighting designer for both legacy acts like the Isley Brothers, Fantasia, and Run DMC, and contemporary stars like Sid, Coi Leray, and Her, who she has toured with. She also designed R&B star Daniel Caesar's Freudian Tour and his performance on The Late Night Show with James Corden. She is a member of IATSE 728 in Los Angeles and a professor of lighting techniques and applications at California Baptist University. Erica works in both the music industry and Hollywood. Thank you both for joining us today. We wanted to have this episode of the Lumen Sisters to talk about women in lighting and talk about your experiences as women in lighting. So to start us off, did you see women represented in lighting when you were starting out, and how did that affect your confidence or expectations? Let's start with Erica.
First of all, thank you guys so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here with these legends. And no, I did not see too many women starting out as a touring LD in the R&B and rap world. When I first started touring, I was pretty much one of the only African-American females in the bunch. We like to call ourselves unicorns, so to speak. I worked in a male-dominated industry. To this day, it's still a male-dominated industry. Most of the females that I work with on tour were either dancers or the artists themselves. So no, I was not reflected too much in the industry as a woman.
What do you think, Aria?
Hi. I want to thank you so much for having me on as well. This is going to be a lot of fun. And one of my first interactions was in college. I remember there was this lighting designer who came through, and she talked to the girls differently. Like, she was really hard on us.
Wow.
And like, even the guys noticed. Like, it was just this very stark difference, like when we were focusing on the plots for the theater there. And I just remember thinking, as a 20-year-old, I promise I will never talk to another woman that way. Even if like I was treated that way, which is what everyone said. It's like, well, she was, because she was older, and that's what she was like growing up in lighting. And I'm just like, I will not be that way. So that was one of my first experiences, was this takeaway of like, this is how I will respond to others that I work with in the future.
That's disgusting.
And she wasn't like, it was just a harsher tone. And I'm just like, no, I want to always make sure I speak to anyone with the softness and not that type of way.
But a noticeable difference is really
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Yeah, that everybody was able to see.
And it did, like, as a college student, I was worried, oh, is it going to be that way? And I'm thankful it has not been that way. That was just such an isolated first-time experience.
Oh, you both have been doing this for a while now. I'd say you're both professionals and have the years and the experience under your belt. Have you seen a change in representation? Do you now have people that you look up to? And do you want to name drop anybody?
Absolutely. I've definitely seen a change from when I first started 17 years ago to where we are now. I mean, running into people like Lauren King, who I love her so much. I will name drop Lauren in every single environment that I that I can get into, because she's opened doors for me in many different situations that would not have been open beforehand. But yes, I am seeing more women. I'm personally reaching out to young women in entertainment and helping them get into the industry and doing outreach programs of that nature and putting women that's coming straight out of college and giving them opportunities to prep tours and rehearse tours and then go out on those tours. But yeah, it actually takes us uplifting each other. A woman, Heather Meyer Newsom, was the one that helped me get into IATSE 728. And it's about opening the doors for each other and helping us get to the next step.
You know, it's interesting because on the theater side of things, there were some women who were really pioneers in lighting. Jean Rosenthal, Theron Musser, people of, our generation, my generation, or the generation before, Beverly Emmons, and now, of course, there's Natasha Katz. But you guys were like forging the pioneer path in different industries than Broadway theater. So I think that's really interesting that you guys were really out there opening new pathways.
Yeah, to go a little off topic, did you ever see yourself doing theater, or was it always live entertainment?
If that question is for me, absolutely. I love theater. I love doing plays and musicals and Broadway. It's not always the most viral gig to have, but I definitely dabbled into it, and I would love to do more plays and things of that nature. It's where my heart started. It's where I got bit by the bug in middle school. So absolutely.
Yeah, theater's always been a big part of my life. Just growing up, I had a dad that writes musical theater for a living. And so I still do 3 shows a year for him. Like, they're on my schedule. Everyone knows, oh, Aria's dad's doing a show. We can't have her. And so that's still a big part of my life. But I hope to, obviously do that in other avenues too. And so I like the balance too between concert and theater or TV or weird events or whatever it is. It's been a really fun balance for me too.
Something interesting about the both of you is you're both very focused in education. Erica, now with your role as a professor, congratulations, is very exciting. And Aria, you are, I would say, one of the top content creators doing education in this industry. Is there some core value that you want to implement in this education? And is there anything specific that an experience that you experience as a woman that has prompted that, or something you want to commit to future women?
I think one thing that I've taken away just from people ask a lot of questions, especially when you're putting stuff on the internet. And so I've been trying to figure out, okay, what are people actually wanting to hear? And one common question I get is, where did you start? Where did you come from? How do I go here? How do I go there? And a big part, it's not just how do I learn the software, but how do I get the courage to step out where I want to step out? And you see this from men and women alike, like it's not just in one demographic. But that's been a big thing that I've noticed is like, we're not just needing to learn, hey, how do I use this? But hey, how do I become the person that can step into that role, that can sit behind that table, that can be in that room with everyone else and present myself in a way that allows me to be part of this whole entertainment world?
Wow, that's pretty deep. And, I want to piggyback off of that because generally speaking, you don't know what you don't know until you get out there and get into the fire. So even watching when I first came out, well, when I first came out, one of the first content creators that really started educating me on these YouTube videos was Christian Jackson. And I'm so excited to see that she's out here now doing the same work as he is, if not even better.
I think one thing, as if you want to take like a woman's perspective on it, that it's been fun to see is where I feel like I had to let myself have permission to be a woman, like at work and in this environment. And by be a woman, I mean like how I want to dress or how I want to act. And I remember being at work one day and someone telling me, "Oh, maybe you shouldn't wear a dress." And I took that back and I went, "Wait, really? But I'm not bending over. I'm sitting at a desk. Like, really, I can't wear a dress." And so I remember there was months where I didn't. And then one day I woke up and I said, "No, I like to dress this way. And this makes me feel like me. And this makes me feel like a woman." And so I had to give myself permission to be that way. But I think when we do that, then we give each other permission to say, "Oh, I also want to wear pink or more bright colors." And like, I know a lot of us wear black. A lot of us love wearing black. I don't. So I've had to really let myself go, "Oh, this is how I want to be, and I can be that way. I don't have to fit into a mold."
Wow, thank you for that. Thank you for giving me permission to not wear black because sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm just like, well, let me just go ahead and put on my show blacks. There's no show today. There's
Yeah. I have a section in my closet that's show blacks, and I put it in the back for this exact reason. Like, if I'm not required, then, why consider it? Yeah. Have you ever been mistaken for someone other than the lighting designer or the programmer or whatever your role was?
Absolutely. Um, During shows, sometimes people mistake me for the DJ. Because when I'm busking on beat and I'm in it. And, it looks like I'm mixing the show and I'm not. I'm just doing the lights. I often get mistaken for the front of house audio engineer, especially if there's feedback. People are looking at me and I'm start looking at him. But yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people don't even know that somebody's operating the lights. So it's a learning lesson for both of us to be able to communicate with me and the audience and when somebody random comes up and asks those questions.
I think the only situation I've run into that is like there's been times where we're at front of house before a show and we're like loading in, and the local guy, the house guy, will come up and start asking questions, lighting questions to like one of the other guys in the at front of house. And I'm just like, "Oh, no, no, I'm sorry, that's me. Can you ask me those questions?" And that's just happened like a handful of times. And I don't know if they're just like, it's an honest mistake or whatever. But I think that's the only time I've really been mistaken for somebody else.
Ann Militello, who was one of the first female lighting designers in the concert industry, says that she would get someplace and go in backstage and the stagehands would all be there. And she'd say, "Well, can we get to work?" And they'd say, "Well, why don't we just wait till the lighting designer gets here?"
Yeah.
That's not funny, but I'm a big fan of Anne. And I'm so happy that you told us that story.
Yeah, she was a real pioneer out there, too. She worked with a lot of really interesting artists. So
She still is a pioneer. I don't remember if she teaches at CSU or Cal Arts.
no, she was at Cal Arts for a long time. Yeah.
Because one of my interns was her student, and I didn't know that
Okay.
she was one of her students until I randomly ran into Anne in Paris. And it was such a great experience because she was like, "Oh, you're Erica D. Hayes. One of my students was telling me that she's been interning for you over the summer and you sent her off to Egypt and things of that nature." And I was like, "Yeah, it was
Oh,
great."
that's cool.
It was so cool. I mean, the lighting industry is so small. They say it's like, I forget the degrees of separation, but in our industry, it's even less.
Right.
So, it's really cool just seeing these pioneers and being so close to them and being able to work alongside of a lot of these pioneers.
I myself am sitting here starstruck speaking to the two of you. So thank you to Light Talk for this opportunity. I hope that other people are able to also feel the stardom that I'm feeling. I did want to ask about if Do you think that your lived experiences as a woman influences your design choices or storytelling? Like, have you ever run into an instance where something has made total sense to you and your male colleagues in the room just don't understand it for some reason, or your perspective is just different, and you were able to embrace your femininity or lived experience?
That's a tough question for me because I don't really pull from my femininity when I'm working on a project or a design. A lot of times I'm looking at the pitch deck. I'm looking at what the artist's brand is. I'm looking at specifically what the project needs in order to develop this concept. In addition to, I'm looking at tech writers for the venues that we're going into and what's realistic. I'm looking at the budget, and this grandiose idea that I had in my head no longer makes sense financially. So how can I scale that back? And that's not necessarily me looking at it as a woman. I'm looking at it as a practical sense. But yeah, it doesn't always connect. My ideas don't always connect with my male counterparts. And I don't think it's just me being a woman and them being a male. But I think it's sometimes they have a different vision, and I just need to adapt to what the client wants and, what the total project needs and things of that nature. But my lived experiences, I'm not 100% sure. I think I have trauma from previous projects that is just like, okay, I got cussed out by an artist by doing this, and I'm not doing that anymore. So
Sure.
I have that type of traumatic experiences that develop my, concepts that I bring to the table. But I don't know if it's about me being a woman. And I grew up a little tomboy. So I'm just dabbing into this femininity like within the last 5 or 6 years or so.
I think that's definitely relatable, taking the notes or the mistakes or the hard lessons learned from previous shows and applying them to new ones, because you don't want to put yourself in that position again.
We've mentioned before that you guys have done some touring. What's it like going on tour as a woman? Is that a difficult thing to do?
I remember my first tour was kind of this realization. I was like, I am the only girl on this bus. And people had told me that that's how it would be, but there's something about sitting there and going, oh, you guys are all definitely guys, and like how you interact with each other. And I'm a very touchy-feely person, but I've noticed if you are the only girl, they're all hugging each other. And I'm just like, can I have a hug too, please? I remember me and the head rigger every morning, we would give each other a hug. And I was like, okay, that's my hug of the day.
Aww.
And, as someone who's like, I grew up in the church, I have a really close family. It's like, so I'm very used to that close personal connection. And that for me was like the most stark thing right away is, oh, it's a little different. And these are all strangers. So obviously we have like a decorum that's a bit different from like all the people I've grown up with. But I was in this super cool experience when we were programming the Alanis Morissette tour, and it was me and Melody Singh. She was doing the scenic. And then we had Jessica Sanders, she was doing Zack Track, and then Morgan, she was on the lighting team. And it was the 4 of us, and we were all so excited just for the couple weeks we got to be together.
First of all.
Yeah, and so we sit at catering, and we're like, oh, we're having such different conversations than what we usually have on tour. And it's just because there was 4 of us there, and so it changed the demographic. But the coolest part of that whole thing was maybe this isn't cool because people kept making this comment, but Nate Cromwell really stood up for us. And people would say to Nate, oh, you hired all women. And he goes, no, I hired the best. And they just happened to be women.
Oh, that's
and he'd
great.
say that every single time someone made a comment about all the women on the team that he picked. So.
Yeah, the list of women that you listed off are such A-listers in the crew world that you guys are definitely the best for the job. So kudos for that. I've never been in that position where I'm working on a crew with all women. I've been in a very similar situation with Janelle Monáe. Lauren King brought me on that back in 2017, 2018 or something like that. And yeah, it was all women front of house, but we had all male crew. So that was, 6-7. Ha ha ha. But other than that, like I haven't had that situation. So it's so cool hearing your experience with that.
Yeah, over the summer I was working the festival and we had to bring in a sub uh A1 and she came in and I explained we're all in one house, we're all very close. I'll help you out when you get here. And she came and walked through the door and she was like, "Oh my God, it's not all men." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, I fully thought I was walking into a house of like 6 guys and it's like evenly split. This is crazy." And I was like, "Oh yeah, we don't do it like that over here. Like we pick the people we need and they just happen to be split." I mean, you both talked about a couple male colleagues and they're our allies, right? So have you had conversations with those around you about being a woman in lighting? And do you find that you're asking others to step up for you? Or do you find that when someone does advocate for you, you encourage that behavior or is that a common occurrence?
Okay, I want to jump in on this because this is so deep to my heart. It's very rare that I work with a team of males that advocate for me. So when I find them, I keep them. I work with them for
Right.
10, 15 years at a time. And anytime Benny, my production manager, calls me, I jump and I say how high. Or I don't have to say how high because I know what his expectations are. I just recently did this tour with Somber, and my production manager and tour manager advocated for me in ways that I've never been advocated before. And I'm like, wow,
Mm,
you guys have my back here. You know, we're loading in and, you know, they're right there beside us saying, hey, no, what Erica says goes. And then all of a sudden, okay, the boss just said, you know, they just gave me the leeway to be the
right.
team leader for that night. And it's very important to have those people advocate for you in those situations, because if not, you can be in situations where you're just battling the crew for 12 hours unnecessarily. And it's just like, ah. But yeah, when I run into those people, it's a big deal. It's a big deal to me.
Aria and Erica, you've both been on the Women in Lighting panels at LDI over the past 2 years. Who attends those and what was the response like? Is it mostly women or you got some guys coming in to listen? And does that feel like a supportive environment?
Oh, this year was extremely supportive. And they had spotlights on us, though, so it was actually kind of hard to see the crowd
Okay.
because they put it in the main hall.
Yeah, on the Battle of the Busk stage. Yep.
Yeah, no, it was great. Don't move the stage.
Okay.
However, I couldn't see the crowd as much, so I didn't see exactly how split it was. But I know there were a lot of women there, especially younger students that came up and talked to us
Oh, good.
after and just wanted to tell us what we'd said that encouraged them. And that to me is my favorite thing, is knowing I can encourage you where you're at and help bring you forward. So it seemed like there was a good chunk that were from that demographic.
To segue really quickly, to hear a lighting designer complain about the harsh lights on stage is so fun. It's like,
Aw.
it's right where we are. Mainly because, you know, that's where I live at, balancing those key lights where the audience needs to see you, but you also need to be able to see and interact with the audience. That's so interesting to say that. But the year that I did LDI, we were standing room only. The the ballroom that we were in was packed, filled with men and women of all races. I had a couple of
Mm.
individuals fly in from Accra, Ghana, for this event, and I made some really, really good connections. And from my first LDI event, I started going to Ghana to teach these workshops and master classes with the individuals that came out to my LDI Women in Lighting meeting.
Wow.
And it was a big deal because they're like, we don't have as many women in lighting. They don't even know that this is a career field. We have
Mm.
women in entertainment. They have, you know, producers and this, that, and the other, but they don't have board ops who are women. They don't have programmers and lighting designers and things of that nature. So being able to take those networking connections that I made at the Women in Lighting meeting at LDI and actually change the game with them and fly across the world and be able to influence and teach people of that nature is such a big deal.
What is it like going over there and teaching there?
There is a stark contrast in what we have access to as far as gear and capabilities than what they have access to. Yeah, we both can download MA3. Yeah, we both can download Vectorworks, but I can call Kinetic Lighting right now and get a small floor package to play with, and they don't have the vendors out there that has the lights or the spots, the washes, the beams, the strobes, all of the things to make these productions that they can even, train on. So it's a stark difference. Even power issues over there is a big deal. I mean, being on generators the whole time, having the generator going out, and then everybody's just used to that is a different thing for me. But I feel like we have the technology and infrastructure here that we can take over there and help increase their infrastructure and things of that nature.
It's really exciting that you were able to be in that position. Yeah.
Right. That's great to know. The women in lighting people should be thrilled. Aria, have you taught out of the United States as well?
I have. I've actually, that's what makes our world even smaller, right? Is when you get to other parts of the world and then you find people who know people that and you're just like, how is this possible? But I got to speak at this tracking event a couple years ago in London. And it was this great, Ammonite put it together. And it was the 6 different spotlight tracking companies. So you had RoboSpot and ZacTrack and BlackTracks and Follow Me. And then there's a couple other companies that just do they do the manual spots. And so we all got to speak and do our part and just kind of talk about how tracking is affecting shows. And they kept it very neutral, like they weren't trying to sell a product. I just thought it was so well done. But I got to represent ZacTrack as a brand. And it was so cool then getting to walk into the crowd and meet people from London and other parts of the world. And now I've actually had a chance to work with some of those people. And it all started with just getting up and just talking about this love for a product that now we can share that globally. It doesn't matter like what culture you're in. And once you've touched the product and you like it, now we have something in common.
That's cool. So one of the original Lumen brothers, David, has a wish list that includes an AI speech-controlled console. And you talk to it and you say, can I have all those lights over there at intensity 50% at blue, please? Oh, no, bring them back. Tilt them this way. And you can just talk to your console and get what you want. How do you guys feel about that?
Hold on. David is a Lumen brother and he's requesting to get 75% of our jobs taken away. I'm just want to clarify that. All right.
Yep.
Yeah. You know what? When I saw Blackout, there's this lighting app that's iPad based. It's been taken off in the film industry. When I saw that app take off, I said, well, there goes the neighborhood. But an AI version of that is what my job is on set. I'm going back and forth with the gaffer. He's trying to figure out what he wants the scene to look like, what he wants it to feel like. And, sometimes it's just going up and down on the intensity or going back and forth on the color temperature on the fixture for 5 minutes until they say action. And then we got to do it really fast right before the action goes. But, to do that text to speech via AI, it's coming anyway. So no matter what, within the next couple of years, it's going to happen. We're watching everybody cut corners from productions on set to productions on festivals and things of that nature. Now, I will say it's going to get a little weird when you do a big loud festival and the music is really loud, everybody's screaming all around, and you still have that text to, AI going in the background. So that can get a little funky, but I think it's going to happen anyway, unfortunately.
I was talking to Will Murphy about this at LDI this year, and he reminded me from the development software side of things, how much processing power has to exist in a console than for us to do this. And because we can't necessarily be online everywhere either, it has to all be able to happen within the console. And to have that much power in the console is not going to happen overnight. So yes, this idea sounds great, but like from a technical standpoint, it's going to take a bit longer to do it. And then just my personal thought process behind it is we call AI artificial intelligence, but another way that it was put to me is to think of it more as augmented intelligence, because really it can only spit out what it's been given. It's not creative on its own. We are the creative beings in the situation. So I have a way of seeing the world. And what I'm doing is I'm putting my way of seeing the world, I'm filtering it through AI, and I'm getting a product. It can only give me what I can give it. So my personal, like as a programmer, what I would love to see first in a console is for me to go, can you clean up these things for me, like this transition, or like, can you just make all the groups that have the VLs in it, could those be pink? And I want to be able to say stuff like that to it so it can start doing the more of like assistant programmer type tasks for me, because there's not very many shows you can actually have an assistant programmer to do those things. That's not super common, but I would like to be able to get further with my programming on those shows where I can get more done from an artistic standpoint without getting bogged down by some of the technical stuff. So my personal opinion is I see AI filling that role long before it fills the artistic role, if ever, because it cannot be creative, because it is not a thinking, breathing, spiritual being that has that ability.
It becomes more of a tool in your toolbox than a replacement.
A very powerful tool.
Well, that would be good. And I hope that all you guys with your creativity can figure out how to harness this thing so it keeps you guys moving forward, but does what you need it to do.
And I got to be honest, I'm not scared of the new technology. There's a lot of people who were scared when MA3 came out. There's a lot of programmers who are MA2 programmers who refuse to learn MA3. There's a lot of ETC programmers who refuse to learn other things. And you have a couple of years before you are phased out. But with this new technology coming in, I love learning new things. It keeps me on my toes, and I love challenges. So as long as we are creating tools that aren't replacing us, because we're watching fast food workers get replaced at McDonald's, for simple tasks. And what we're doing is not a simple task by any means necessary, but I'm so happy that you brought it back home for all of us. It's like these tasks will take a lot of processing power, and it's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
And then we also, like, as the programmers and designers and technicians, we have the voice to like speak up to the people developing these things, right? We can talk to MA, we can talk to ETC, we can talk to the lighting manufacturers. Do they always listen exactly how we want? No, because we're all people and we're all communicating with each other, but we have the ability to advocate for what we want now on the forefront before it gets to the point where someone's already made the decision and it's out there.
If you had no restrictions, do you have a dream tool or piece of equipment or console feature that, like, in your perfect world, you would have that? David's is his AI console, but like, what would yours be?
Mine is what I explained like a second ago with what I think AI will do first is doing those administrative type tasks in the console. Because I did this show, we did this residency in October, and we didn't have quite enough time to program like all 23 of these songs. And I was definitely like, I wish I could just have it do these little things so that I can get back to like the creative aspect of the whole thing.
Erica, do you have a dream equipment or dream feature?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have a dream piece of equipment, especially because a lot of my dreams are coming true daily. But Dream AI, I'm not sure if you've heard of Claude. Claude is a very similar AI to ChatGPT, but just a little bit more in depth. Think of Claude, you can drop in your MA3 show file and your Vectorworks show file, and you could tell Claude or the AI, tell me what my issues are going to be before I get on to the stage. And it can tell you, okay, you're going to have mode issues here because your fixture profile does not match the mode of the lights here. So it can just pinpoint these things that's going to take us 5 to 10 minutes to troubleshoot, sometimes 20 to 30 minutes to troubleshoot on the day. And it can just look at the paperwork and look at the files and figure that out. There's this issue with fixture profiles on off-market fixtures. And, for lack of better terms, there's this Chinese spot fixture that the schematics on the DMX chart does not match what's actually happening on the fixture. I want AI to figure that out for me while I'm doing something else. You know what I mean? Those types of things, I'll pay for that. I'll pay for that. But other than that, I know that I have colleagues who could do that, and we could pay them their day rates and things of that nature to make those fixture profiles or do R&D for those companies. But sometimes it doesn't happen. And sometimes I get to a festival that has a whole bunch of those lights.
How about a dream job? What would your dream job be, project-wise? Is there something you've just been dying to do? Like Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl, or who knows?
Would you like to do Bad Bunny?
Yep.
Is that your dream job, Ellen? Okay. I told my mom yesterday, or I think it was literally yesterday, we went to New York this weekend just to see some Broadway shows because family, theater, inspiration. So we were like, let's go do this for the weekend. So saw a bunch of shows, and I'm currently just in love with Hadestown. Right, this is the second time I've seen it. I think it's gorgeous. I love the music. I love a show where there's no dialogue. This, for me personally, it's like, take out the dialogue. I want singing the entire 2.5 hours. And I know that's not everyone's preference, but it's definitely mine. And I'm watching the lighting and the simplicity of it and the colors and the shifting. And I told my mom, I said, if I can light something as beautiful as this one day, then I'll be happy. So for me, it's not necessarily what is the dream show, but if I can feel this way that I'm feeling about this show, about my own, then that to me is what I want for success.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I don't necessarily have a dream show or a dream artist that I want to work with, but I do have some dream crews that I would like to work with. I have some production managers on my list that I would like to work with. I really love architectural lighting design. I know that's way off from stage lighting and lighting for film and things of that nature, but lighting for buildings and hotels and some permanent lighting installations, that really gets me going, Dan
Militello does both, so you should hook up with her. She's in LA. Go have lunch and get some architectural projects going with her.
And I think it was when we had some type of snack together in Paris. It wasn't quite lunch because I couldn't pick her brain. But when we had that snack together in Paris, I was able to pick her brain just a little bit about the things and projects that she's working on. And it just really took me to the next level because there's so many things that you can do. There's not a box as far as being a lighting designer, or just play with lights in general. You could be a crew chief one day, you could be a programmer the next day, you could work on Broadway for a couple months, you can go on tour with the artist for a couple months. There's just so many things you can do. But my biggest thing is working with good people.
My favorite thing about programming is the puzzle that your brain gets to do to put it together. So if you're constantly working on the same type of show, it's technically the same puzzle. It's all variations, but it's about the same picture. But when you get to do different shows, or I think it'd be fun to do one of those immersive shows where it's a group going through, how fun does that puzzle sound? So for me, it's okay, well, what cool puzzle do I get to do next? And those are my dreams.
There's a new one of those in Vegas. It's called Hope Road. That's the Bob Marley experience. Mm-hmm. And I haven't seen it yet. It was dark the week of LDI, unfortunately. But I think it was lit by Rain Renshaw, who does the art of programming at LDI now, and programmed by Benny Kirkham. And it looks fabulous in the videos of it. So if you get to Vegas, by all means.
I will.
I'm sure you've both heard this before, but if you could speak directly to your younger self, what would you say? Is there a piece of advice, a tip and trick, a wish?
If I could say something to my younger self at the start of my career, I would tell them to keep going, Not everybody's going to like you, and not all money's good money.
I think what I would say is if I told you right now everything you were going to do, you wouldn't believe me. Because I think we want to know, like, oh, what am I going to do? Am I going to do this? Am I going to go here? And I remember being so concerned about that in college. Like, where was I going to move? And what am I going to do after? And even like a year ago, I was concerned about that. And so I tell myself that now. I'm like, you know what? In a year, you're going to be surprised what you've done. So just sit back and enjoy the ride.
I think those are both things to remember always. Is there anything that you're constantly reminding your current self?
You know, when I first started lighting and first started touring, I got this tattoo that said, work comes from work. And it's something that I constantly remind myself when people ask me, how do you get your gigs? And how did you get this? And how did you get that? I was on a gig when somebody asked me if I was available for the next one. You know, I was working and somebody asked me if I was available next week and things of that nature. And a lot of times, sometimes the gig doesn't come next week. Sometimes the gig comes next year from the person that you worked with a year previously. So work comes from work.
I think mine's in the similar vein because as a freelancer, you're like, when's my next job? And when I first started, I was 2 months into freelancing, and someone called me and said, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm making lunch. And he meant like, what was I doing for work in that moment? But I just am so literal. I'm like, well, I'm making lunch right now. And he goes, no, I need to know if you're free tomorrow for the next 3 weeks. Can I put you on tour? And I said, oh, no, I have a gig. So that moment, I didn't take that one. But ever since then, anytime I'm worried about like a gig or what am I doing next month or next week, I go, well, I could just be making lunch and then I could go on tour. So that's what I tell myself. I'm just making lunch.
That's great. Well, it was fabulous, fabulous, fabulous having both of you on here, having seen you at LDI. And it's just great having you be part of the Lumen family. And I hope we'll get to talk to you guys again sometime soon. All three of you, actually. It's just been wonderful having a Women in Lighting edition. But the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tell us that once again, you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on just about every podcast site out there. Check out our website on lighttalk.org and be sure to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantees offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
if you do decide to litigate, you will have to deal with me, Snoot, from the Snoot Group. And don't get it twisted. Just because I married one of these losers does not mean I will go easy on you. So don't with me.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen brothers and sisters,
coming to you from Los Angeles, South Dakota, and the tropical paradise of St. Barth.
And be sure to join us next week when we dive into more lighting shenanigans and serve up a fresh, piping hot casserole of nonsense. Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
We will see you all next Saturday morning. Bye-bye from Light Talk.
Lumen.